Welcome, fantasy football fans, to this week's episode of the Colorado Fantasy Football League podcast. I'm Ryan Jarris, and we're co-hosted today by Alex Fitex. Alec, why don't you introduce yourself here, man?
I'm Big Al. I am the rightful first place participant in our fantasy football league, but we'll get into that a little bit later.
First place. This guy's giving himself a game.
Hell yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy work. Well, we're back here today. We're going to be going over last week's matchups. We're going to be going over trades. We're going to be going over this week's matchups. But first, I want to take a victory lap. Last week, I said the luckiest team is Keegan and the most unlucky team is Casey. We go ahead and look at the standings from last week. Casey drops 196 points. I believe that's top 10 ever in the league.
It is.
If
It
if
is,
not,
yes.
it's really close. Yep, it is.
Super
Big Al was
close.
saying.
hmm
And Keegan drops an egg, lowest score of the week, 104 points. Um, Look, we said it was going to happen. The regression was eventually was going to hit for Keegan. He was talking all that smack, and it's hit him like a truck. So why don't we just go ahead and start off with that matchup as Casey and Keegan actually played against each other? You got anything interesting you want to talk about there, Big L?
Honestly, everything on paper looks amazing. I'm very, very sad that I decided to drop and trade Drake London over to Casey as he dropped nearly 40 points. Just a little bit sad to me. And then just looking at Keegan's double tight end threat didn't really pan out for him this week,
No.
unfortunately.
No, he did get some good performances out of Trey McBride, and Kyler Murray actually just went on IR, which means Jacoby Brissett is going to quarterback for at least the next 4 games, which I think is actually a plus for Trey McBride. So that's good. DK Metcalf in your starting lineup in 8-man is absolutely absurd. And this just goes back to what we talked about last week and him not having much depth. He has Devontae Smith that he can play this week, but I mean, Cooper Kupp can't play anymore now.
Yeah.
He's maybe the wide receiver 3, maybe even 4. Torrey Horton's probably even over Cooper Kupp at this point. But the lineup was just due for aggression. He's got some good pieces there, but when we're talking about good pieces, let's look over at Casey's lineup. He traded for Jackson Dart. We clowned on him. I still think it's a bad move trading for a
Yeah.
quarterback in an 8-man
I'd have
league,
to agree.
especially when you're dealing with just a guy who had a bye. But Marvin Harrison went off. Cortland Sutton had a bad game. Sam Laporta went off. Drake London went off. Justin Jefferson went off. Devon Achane had a bad game, and he still scored 16. It was and then CMC, obviously his anchor, his rock for the year, CMC. All around good performance, and even had guys like J.K. Dobbins, ETN, and Xavier Worthy on the bench. So like Casey has some depth on that team.
Yes.
So
Yeah, that uh that matchup was very good for both me and Kobe, I feel like. Unfortunately, a little segue into our next matchup. I feel like Kobe missed out on an opportunity to take that number one spot or at least get very, very close. So a little unfortunate for him, unfortunate for me for sure.
And Kobe's dealt with some injuries this year. Like we all have our injuries, but Tucker Craft going down is a sad one. He
Very.
did just trade for Tucker Craft too, which he's going to complain about in the chat, but it happens to the best of us. Daniel Jones and Jonathan Taylor having their worst games of the year definitely hurts, and then
Tough.
Jahmyr Gibbs also having a bad game hurts. But J Jackson Smith and Jigba has been incredible. He's on pace for 2,000 yards. Jalen Waddle having, quote, a bad game at 14 points is electric for him. And then the balls to start, Kyle Monangai is great over guys like Tet McMillan and Kenneth Walker. I'm not sure I would have had the balls to do that, but
Mm-mm.
maybe it was due to the projections being higher. Could have been as simple
Yeah.
as that. But I love the start from him there. And then Nick also having a good week. We're talking all these praises about Kobe, but Nick ended up winning that matchup. Josh Allen had a great day. Genty had a great day. Kelsey had a great day. And he also started Parker Washington, which took some nuts to do.
Yeah. I would have to agree there. Yeah. I feel like Kobe's team in general, looking back during the draft, he picked up a lot of sleepers. Like Jonathan Taylor, I believe. let's double check here. He didn't go until the fourth round, which is absolutely insane. But yeah, I mean, both of these teams are starting to shape up. I know Nick and I had a trade that bettered his team, and I don't his I like his team a lot. Once his guys get off by, he's got a couple of good matchups coming up, and yeah, this is just an unfortunate week for Kobe having both Daniel Jones and Jonathan Taylor on the same team. I feel like you're kind of limiting yourself there with the run and passing game, so very, very unfortunate.
We can jump into Jacob versus Sage with Sage taking down Jacob and I believe snagging himself a median win, which is good for the shit show. Chase Brown had another great week. Devontae Adams back-to-back weeks with 2 touchdowns. Michael Pittman another solid week. Jake Ferguson hasn't been the same since CeeDee Lamb has been back. I don't know if we're going to see that to continue. It seems like he's in the market for a tight end. So anybody who has 3 tight ends that they start every week, maybe you could trade one to Sage. Um,
Who could that be?
Rico Dowdle had a good game. I think it's Jamal Williams. Is that his name? Jameson. I forget because he's so irrelevant. I hate that he started him, but it worked. So I can't clown on him for that. Jacob's been making moves. He's been doing a great job with some of his trades, truthfully. He's been relentless with it, and we're honestly continuing to have some trade talks too. So you could see something between the two of us. But Justin Herbert has been a great option all year. He quietly just bumped into QB2 on the year with back-to-back-to-back weeks above 25 points. Anything you'd like to add here, Big Al?
Honestly, I mean, there's a lot of people that might disagree with me, but I don't think that Jacob should be in the spot that he is right now, especially after his trades. Um, it's super unfortunate that Roma Dunze dropped 0 points after his offense scored 47 total points.
That's insane.
Yeah, that is outrageous. Nico Collins, I mean, he's getting the yards, but unfortunately, he's just not grabbing those touchdowns. So I mean, he's got a safe floor with his yards and all that, and like averaging 10 to 15. But the touchdowns just are not there. So Jacob's getting a little bit unlucky in my opinion. Um, but yeah, once he gets a full healthy team with CeeDee Lamb and Nico Collins all on the same exact roster at the same time, playing at the same time, I think he's due to move up the standings.
See what the problem is here. Only 2 teams are going to stay at the bottom of the standings. Jacob's 3 games out of a playoff spot. Sage is only 2 games out of a playoff spot. They're both pretty down there on points, so they're more like 4 games or yeah, 4 games and 3 games out of a playoff spot. But we're coming
Hmm.
down to the last few weeks. We have
Yeah, I
week
believe
10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So 5 weeks to make up 3 and 4 games. There's not a lot of time left. So the time
no,
it's starting to get to be crunch time. Um, it's go time for a lot of these guys. So he can't afford to lose any more games, realistically. You probably have to go 7-3 if you want to make the playoffs from where Jacob's at.
at least, and I mean, that's quite possible because he's got matchups with those lower people on the standings list. So it's very possible for both of them to make their way out.
Let's go ahead and talk about the last week 9 matchup, you versus me. You won by a total of 3 points. If George Pickens catches one more pass down the stretch in that Dallas game, or if I don't waffle on my decision and switch out Brock Bowers for Oronda Gadsden at 12:55 p.m., 5 minutes before the first game starts, I absolutely mollywop you. That's 2 straight weeks. I've missed out on a median win by like 5 points total.
Yeah, that
So
really sucks.
that one hurts. Honestly, both of our teams, there's nothing real negative here. Both of our quarterbacks were elite. Both of our running back ones were great, and both of our running back twos sucked.
Hmm.
Um, Kind of basically the same thing with our wide receiver one and wide receiver twos. They're both solid. Your tight end slightly beat mine, and then your flexes, we were hit and miss. So like honestly, like it was a great matchup in general. Like it was a fun one. Came down to the last game on Monday night. You gotta love that. But
Same.
it was a good showing from both of our teams. It's just an ugly eyesore to see the second most points scored in a game on my bench in this season. That's just tough.
Yeah, that is super tough. And unfortunately, we didn't get to play our both of our best players. So we got Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. We got Bucky Irving, some guys on by here. And then I believe, did you have any injuries last week? No.
Oh yeah, I had I
DeAndre
mean,
Swift.
small
I
ones,
mean,
small ones. Rookie
yeah, I
pickup.
mean, it was still a really good matchup. I did not expect to score as many points as we both did. Just with some guys being injured, but yeah,
Yeah,
using Bam Knight absolutely stressed me out on that Monday night game.
it's crazy because I expected Bam Knight to go off, and
I kind of
he
did too. That's why I put him there and traded away ETN. But I mean, you kind of swayed me with the podcast last week. I was still going back and forth. I was switching them back and forth every other day, and then finally decided
perfect.
to go with Bam Knight. So
Nick and I
worked
peer
out for me
pressured
in the
you.
long run.
It did work out, so I can't really comment. I can't really comment. Well, let's take a look at the standings quick before we hop into some trades. We still have the Gum Munchers on top, even with a two-game skid. He has one game over Big Al. He's 15 and 3. Big Al's 14 and 4. Kobe holding down that third slot, 12 and 6. I'm in the fourth slot with an 8 and 10 record. We only have three teams above 500. Not great. The Dub Farmers and Amon Drugs are both at 5 and 6. They both hold down a 7-11 record. And in our two bottom feeder spots, who would miss the playoffs if this held, is the shit show at 5 and 13 and finding NoCo at 4 and 14. So, Big Al, you want to jump into some trades this week?
Yeah, we had three trades go on this week. First trade that happened was between Keegan and Sage.
Hmm.
Uh, Keegan receives DK Metcalf, uh, David Montgomery, and Devonta Smith, and Sage received Mbuka and Chase Brown. Just like straight up looking at these, I feel like Sage runs away with some big names, and I know you've harped on the 2 for 3 trades and how you want to be on that 2 for part of the trade. Um, it just doesn't make sense that Keegan being in the spot that he is needs to make this trade, in my opinion. Just sending away some of those big names. I think Chase Brown is kind of back with the Joe Flacco scenario. He's getting the receptions. He had 10 targets last week, which is pretty much elite for running backs these days. I think the only ones that even remotely touch that is like um, Christian McCaffrey and Bijan Robinson and like those caliber players. So I think I don't know. In my opinion, I feel like that trade was not necessary for Keegan.
Not only was it not necessary, it was detrimental to his team. I don't see a scenario like we have harped on him, and I think that I can potentially take a little bit of the glory from why he made this trade is we've harped on his lack of depth. He still has lack
Hmm.
of depth. He made this trade and he
Yeah,
still has lack of depth. He turned two good assets into three okay assets.
right.
DK Metcalf is never going to be a good start. David Montgomery is
Hmm.
a hit or miss. Devontae Smith is boom or bust. Whereas Chase Brown, bad at the beginning of the year, but you're right. Joe Flacco has kind of unlocked him again. And
Hmm.
Emeka Egbuka was his most exciting player all year. I couldn't fathom trading somebody like that, to be honest. Like and it's funny because we harped on him in the chat and he was very defensive about it. He said some words that I can't say on the podcast and keep this monetized. We are going to pinpoint this moment as the moment of his downfall. And since the trade, 0 2. So,
Yeah. I like just going into some stats here. DK is, I feel like he's a touchdown or bust kind of guy. If he doesn't score that touchdown, then you're limited on points there. He doesn't get a lot of touches. Usually sitting around like 5 or 6 targets, which is not very good for a wide receiver one. Montgomery, I feel like the only reason why you roster him is because you're expecting an injury, especially in an 8-man league. Like this, I'm catering that towards a 10-person league, like definitely in an 8-man league. I don't feel like it's necessary to roster him. But then looking at Devonta Smith, he's got decent numbers, but just with that offense, I feel like there's so many weapons. It's like a boomer bust scenario. Um, and then Sage acquires Mbuka, his targets are outrageous, and his touchdown scoring is fantastic. He's a great player overall. And then Chase Brown, actually 14 targets last week, not 10. So that's even better, even better.
That's amazing.
So I definitely think Sage ran away with this.
We can jump into your trade with Casey that happened on Halloween earlier this week. And I said in the chat, I said, and I quote, I kind of like Alex's side on this, which is you receive Dallas Goedert and Devon Achane, and Casey gets ETN and London. After 1 week, obviously the London ETN side is better, but
Yeah.
trades aren't only for 1 week. You also can't look at them in a vacuum. There's other factors here. One of the factors which I tried to steal away Bijan at the beginning of the year is you had Bijan and London which capped the upside for both players on your team. So I don't hate that you're making a move to get rid of one of those players. And I also think that you were probably a little bit more wide receiver heavy with Rashee Rice coming
Mhm.
back and acquiring another running back is good for you. I don't think there's a loser in this trade. Um, I don't really love Goddard. He's okay in my opinion, but you acquired a top five running back in Devon Achane, um, and you gave away probably maybe a top seven, top five wide receiver. He's probably top five rest of season,
Mhm.
maybe. And then ETN, which is just a depth piece. So if your goal is to get a better running back, you got a good running back. So I'm not sure
Mhm.
that there's like a loser in this scenario, quite honestly, because I really like Casey's side too.
Yeah.
There wasn't an obvious like fleece scenario here, which I think is good. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna try and talk here being unbiased, but my thought process was just to grab a running back that gets a lot of targets as well, since it is a PPR league. But also, I'm lacking very heavily in the tight end position. So I was trying to go after a starting top eight at least tight end, and then just having to acquire HN, I had to give away one of my statement pieces in London. So it is unfortunate, but now I have a 3-and-3 scenario, so I don't have to rely mostly on my wide receivers carrying my running backs.
We got one more trade to go over. This one, we just talked about how your trade was pretty fair. This one is awful. Um, we have
Yeah.
Jacob receiving Keenan Allen and Chris Olave, and Sage receiving Rico Dowdle. I summed it up in the chat. Nick first did. He said, "What?" And then I replied with 15 points per game and 15 points per game for 12 points per game. I mean, Rico Dowdle had another great week, don't get me wrong, but I'm not a big fan of this trade. What are your thoughts, Alex?
Honestly, I was in the same exact boat as you are right now when this trade first went through. I had a couple comments for it, but going back to it, Rico Dowdle, the games that he's actually starred in, has been amazing. Week 5, running back one. Week 6, running back two. Those were his two starts. Week 9, running back two. That is that is insane. He's getting 23 to 30 attempts at rushing, getting those touchdowns. Honestly, I think it's more of a fair trade than we might have anticipated. I think at the time when Jacob did trade him, he didn't know that Rico Dowdle was going to be the starter in Carolina. But giving away Olave, he's getting a lot of targets, so that's kind of a safe floor. Looking at Keenan Allen and his game logs, he's losing snap percentages every single week. He's gone from 62 to 78 all the way down to 25 and 37. That is not that good. So the more I look at it and the more I really dive into it, I think it's a fair trade in my opinion.
Yeah, it's not as egregious as I think. I think that's fair. I don't think it's as egregious as I was saying. You also
Mhm.
have Olave now as the only targetable like receiver with Shaheed gone.
That might be a good or bad thing for
Maybe. Yeah, well,
defenses and coverages and stuff like that.
Tyler Shuck was throwing it to Shaheed more than he was Olave since they
Mhm.
made the quarterback switch. So now he might be forced to throw to Olave more. You do bring up a good point with the snap percentages. Chuba Hubbard had 54 and 57% snap percentages in those 2 weeks that Dowdle did bad. and now he dropped to 22 in the week that
Mm,
Dowdle did good again. Who knows what's going to end up happening? I think that the Panthers have said that they're going to lean more on Dowdle at this point. So
yeah.
you know what? Maybe Sage is balling over and we're all wrong. I think
Mm,
you bring up a good point that it's maybe not as black and white as we once thought.
yes. I have 100% agreed to that. And I think, I don't know, Keenan Allen kind of scares me. I feel like he is a wide receiver three. He might actually be the wide receiver three. Just because I think we got Quentin Johnston. Yeah, Quentin Johnston. I think he's a better wide receiver than Keenan Allen. Definitely a lot younger, a lot more motivated. He's had a couple of rough weeks, like towards the middle of our season so far. Um, but I do see him coming back as a strong option. So who knows what that means for Keenan Allen.
Okay. Why don't we jump into week 10 matchups? I'm going to lead off with your matchup versus Kobe. We got projections of 158 for you and 148 for Kobe. Should be an interesting game with Lamar Jackson playing in Minnesota. JT is poised for a bounce back. You got JT and Daniel Jones playing in London this week. So that's going to be an early game if you Mountain Time people are going to watch it at 7:30. Devon Achane plays a big game versus Buffalo. Who knows if he's going to hit his projections with the game script there. Um, in division rivalry game for Puka, and then some other less notable games. We even have, oh wow, Alex doesn't even have his kicker in yet. So that 158 is going to turn into about 165. So he's got an almost 20-point lead on Kobe. I don't see how Kobe is going to bring this home. I'm not sure Kobe set his final lineup yet either. I would probably rather play Deebo Samuel than Kyle Monangai again with DeAndre Swift
Mm,
back. But it's hard to see a scenario that Kobe wins this week. He's got to be praying for like a some sort of like median win. But just with the projections and with like the kind of schedules that I'm looking at, I like Big Al's side quite a bit. What do you
yeah,
think? Anything to add?
I mean, just looking at it, I mean, Kobe has scored lots and lots of points um, in his first couple weeks for fantasy football. So that does scare me a little bit, just because I know JT can go off, I know Gibbs can go off, and definitely Smith and Jigba. He's been a superstar so far, and he might be the number one wide receiver in the league at this point. Um, yeah, I'm nervous for this week. This is a big game for me, just to push Kobe a little bit further down the rankings and get him away from me. I will tell you that I am nervous to play him in the playoffs if my team decides to make it. But yeah, this is going to be a fantastic matchup.
All right, let's jump into what I predict to be the closest matchup of the week. Keegan, the Gum Munchers versus Finding Nico. This is an interesting one. They're both projected about 130, 135. We're gonna watch Bo Nix cook on Thursday night football tonight. This will also be finished on Monday night as Keegan has um, Devontae Smith and Romeo Dobbs playing on Monday. So this matchup won't even complete until Monday. Jacobs also playing the Denver defense. So there's some implications both on Thursday and Monday that'll be fun to look out for. He's starting both those guys that we were putting question marks next to earlier, Olave and Keenan Allen, as well as he's looking for bounce back weeks from Odunze, from Nico Collins without his starting quarterback, Quinshaw Judkins, potentially having his first day back. Looks like he practiced today, so it looks like he's going to start, unfortunately for me. Um, and then James Cook versus Miami. As we know, Miami has been giving up so many points to running backs besides Bijan Robinson. So as much as I don't like Keegan's side, I don't like Jacob's side either. Is there a way
Mhm.
that they can both score 0 points?
Man, I wish, but Justin Herbert had an unfortunate thing happen to him. He lost one of his guards, I believe. I think his name was Joe Alt.
I think he lost
Um, two,
two
yeah,
starting
two
linemen.
starting linemen. That's gonna hurt him. It might push them to not run the ball as much, which would
Yep.
be pretty decent for Herbert. Just because I know he is a passing quarterback. Right now we got James Cook is questionable, so that
So
might be a deciding factor for this game. Just having looks like a foot injury. Yeah,
yeah, he
we got
didn't
a foot
practice
injury.
Wednesday. He was limited today on
Yeah.
Thursday.
And then for some reason the sports books have Bo Nix's line for passing at like I believe it was 219, which I find that hard to believe going against a Las Vegas defense. So obviously they know more than us. So I'm not sure what they see in that. And then just looking at some other matchups for games, I see a lot of red over on Keegan's side and a lot of green on Jacob's side, which obviously means good and bad. So we'll see how this matchup actually turns out, but I feel like it's more 50-50 for me at this point right now.
Okay. Should we have to put look, why don't we make predictions on each?
All right.
Why don't we put
I like it.
a little something on there?
I
I'm
like it.
I think you can probably guess who I'm going to pick.
Keegan, absolutely not. No, we're
I'm
going with Jacob.
hammering Finding Nico.
Hell
That's my
yeah, me too.
Finding Nico button.
I will ride that with you.
All
It is
right.
like a minus 135.
All right. Did we've already been over your matchup. I'm gonna hammer the Big Al button.
Yeah, I will hammer my own button as well.
Okay. Perfect. Let's talk about the Dub Farmers versus the shit show. And I think before we talk about the shit show, let's talk about the Dub Farmers and the recipient of my flowers this week, Casey Johnson, the Dub Farmers. Congratulations on the flowers. While you make some questionable trades. Your team has looked fantastic for most of the year. You've gotten continuously unlucky, and the projections show that your team is solid. It's up there with the big dogs. So flowers to Casey. He's got Jackson Dart and CMC leading the way. Drake London, Justin Jefferson. He's got some good names in there. Even Wandale Robinson's projected almost 15, which is a little bit nutty.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Um, but some of those guys are primed and ready to go. He also has Cortland Sutton, who will be playing tonight. Sage has some early 9 a.m. players as well as a lot of 1 p.m. players. So that matchup, his last guy, he has one guy going at 4 p.m. So that matchup, he'll be finished by the Sunday night games. So we'll have a good picture of that pretty early on in the day, Sunday. I don't see it going Sage's way, especially starting Alvin Kamara uh, this late in the season,
Yeah.
with Chase Brown on bye and Zach Charbonnet basically a non-factor at this point. I don't see it going Sage's way. Do you have anything else to add here?
Yeah, I think Casey runs away with this one pretty easily, in my opinion. We got Kamara in his most washed season I've ever seen a running back ever have. We got Rico Dowdle. He's been on a tear lately, so that's one plus side. Drake May has been very good.
Yeah.
You got Devontae Adams is kind of special. He's that wide receiver too that still gets a decent amount of touches with a great passing quarterback. Michael Pittman has been on a tear recently, but I I don't know. I feel like he's a boom or bust guy. Um, and then Mbuka, I feel like he's gonna drop a lot of points, but I don't think it'll be enough to outpace Casey for sure. Casey's got a lot of very good assets.
So I hammered the Dub Farmers button. Where are you going?
I am also going Dub Farmers.
Okay. All right. That brings us into our last matchup, which is me, the Beanpoles, versus Amon Drugs. Um, Final projections aren't in for me yet. I have currently 2 zeros sitting in my wide receiver slots as I wait for people to be ruled out so that I can make some roster moves. Currently, I have five wide receivers on my roster. Two are on bye, two will be ruled out, and Jacoby Myers just switched teams and will not be fully implemented in the offense. Not looking good. We're gonna have to make some waiver wire moves to even compete this week. I'm gonna have to double tight end like Keegan likes to probably. Unless I decide to go DeAndre Swift over a Rondé Gadsden, which I kind of want to do. Um, it doesn't look good for me. I do get Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley back, but to be without all of my wide receivers is not a good spot to be. It doesn't even look like not Keegan, Nick has set his full lineup yet. I'm sure he's going to switch in Garrett Wilson for Parker Washington. Um, I like his side for the most part. I don't like Ashton Genty versus the Broncos. I think that's going to be a bust. We're going to have
Hmm.
a fun matchup tonight with that. Brock Bowers versus Ashton Genty, and it's just going to be a rooting interest and give the ball to the other guy, you know? Um,
Exactly.
what do you got here?
Yeah, I think you're having a very unfortunate week having all these injuries. I feel like you definitely have the better team, if not exactly the same points wise with Nick here. Um, Brian Thomas has had an unfortunate year so far, which is terrible. We got Saquon. He had a really good week before his bye week, so I'm very hopeful for you. Come Saquon here. Um, oh, I just lost my spot. Yeah, I think unfortunately with the injuries, I think you're gonna have to pull out a miracle here. Um, you gotta hope for Brock Bowers to drop another similar game, um, as he did last week, and then yeah, I'm interested to see. I'm sure you will, but uh, you should probably throw DeAndre Swift in that lineup. He's been doing pretty decent recently. So,
Yeah. I think I'm leaning Swift over Gadsden once I'm able to make
mhm.
roster moves.
Yeah, that's looking a little bit better for sure.
Well, with that being said, I'm hammering the Amon drugs.
I gotta see your pickups here. Um, but depending on your pickups, I know there's not a whole lot of good people available, but I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to hammer Nick's team here as well.
Okay. You said you had a segment that you wanted to go over today, Big Al?
I did, and this is going to be the Devil's Advocate segment. So, our first Devil's Advocate, I see Ryan sneaking into the third place spot. I see Keegan dropping, like like you guys have talked about. And I don't know. I think a lot of things have to go right for that to happen. I feel like trying to be unbiased, but I feel like me and Kobe might be that one and two spot. I don't know if you'll be able to quite catch up to us. That's very biased of me, but yeah, that's my first Devil's Advocate segment. And then I got one more here, and this also involves you.
Oh, good.
I feel like your team is a teeter-totter. It could either go very, very well for the rest of the season, or it can go straight into the toilet bowl. I believe, I don't know. I think, like I said earlier, I think Jacob can find his way out of there. It just really depends on your matchups coming up, and if you can beat some of those lower end teams right now, like as far as Casey and Nick, and I think Sage might have secured himself at the bottom, in my opinion. But that is my devil's advocate poll, if you
I think
will.
those are interesting points. It'd be pretty tough for me to ever pass Keegan. I'm 7 games behind him at this point, so I think that he has at least secured a top three spot. But I think you're
Hmm.
right. I think you and Kobe are the top two, and I don't think you're wrong. I do think my team's kind of a teeter-totter in the way that it's either hit or miss. But I think that could make me dangerous in the postseason as long as I get there. I
I
don't
agree.
think I'm in risk of missing the postseason. I think the two teams that it will be, I think it's either going to be Almond Drugs, the shit show, and Finding Nico. I think those are the three teams that will have a risk of missing the postseason. I don't see myself in that group as of now. I have enough pieces that I think that could get healthy that can get me there.
Hmm.
But you're right. It's been real up and down this season. But I see
Yeah.
those three as I mean they are the bottom three in the standings, but Casey is right there as well. And I see him passing me, truthfully.
Yeah. I mean, another reason why I think you could sneak into that third place spot is Keegan's matchups. So Keegan still has Kobe, me, and then you in week 12 to play. That's three of the toughest teams in the league. So I can see you making your way up there and him making his way down. It is very possible in my opinion.
Yep, he's got you in week 14 and then Nick in week 13 as well. So he
Hmm.
does have some tough matchups. He's due for some more regression. I don't think I don't even think it's a hot take that he doesn't get the one seed. I think it's more of a hot take that he misses the bye, but
Hmm.
we'll see where it stands.
We will see.
All right, do you have any other super hot takes that you would like to do you want to give out any flowers?
Since I've talked about him a lot and he didn't get him last week just because he advocated for himself, which is fair. Definitely fair, but I would like to give my flowers to Jacob. I think he's really turned his team around. I would put money on he's not going to see himself in the toilet bowl. I think he's just going to be fine.
Yeah, he's made some great trades. And I respect the effort to get it like back into I would have never seen him in this position starting the year. I
Oh.
think he makes enough moves to like generally make the playoffs every year.
Hmm.
Um, so it's a little bit shocking to see him, week 10 in the bottom of the standings. I'm sure if you told him that at the beginning of the year, he would have said some incredibly,
Vulgar,
yes, incredibly vulgar things towards you. So respect for him, kind of wearing it on the chin a little bit. Um, but yeah, I think that he has a chance to sneak out of that cellar.
for sure. For sure. But yeah, that's all I really have. No more notes for me.
All right. Well, we look forward to a wonderful Thursday night football. Welcome back to football. We took a couple days off. Week 10, week 11, 12, 13, 14 is all that's left in the regular season. 5 weeks, 10 wins to be had. Lots of spots. I mean, one and two seed are wide open for those top three guys,
Mhm.
and the punishment is wide open for the bottom five guys. So,
It is. It is. It's coming down to the wire. Standings are very close. It's going to get exciting.
all right. I appreciate you hopping on with me here,
No
co-hosting Big
problem.
Al.
Thanks for having me.
We look forward to another week of fantasy football in the Colorado Football League. We will see you next week.
See you guys.